He loved her for 6 years, gave her peace, gave her space. But when she came back hoping for forgiveness, she didn't find a man who used to hold her through storms. She found a stranger, one who no longer needed to raise his voice to destroy her, because the man she betrayed didn't scream. He planned, and his silence wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of a quiet revenge she never saw coming. That morning, Kellen Hayes stood at the door, towel still in hand from drying dishes, as Ivy walked out with 2 suitcases. He didn't say a word, not because he had nothing to say, but because something in him had already let go. She didn't cry, didn't hesitate. Her voice was flat, rehearsed. "I need space, Kellen. Time to figure myself out." He nodded, not because he agreed, but because he wouldn't beg someone to stay who had already left in every way that mattered. She walked past him, and the soft click of the door behind her echoed like a funeral bell. He stood still for a beat, then went back to washing the dishes, folded the laundry, swept the floors. The silence of the house wrapped around him, not suffocating, just still. At work, he was early, stayed late, Mr. Dependable. At the gym, he pushed harder. At the store, he moved with purpose. Routine became his therapy. Silence, his sanctuary. His sister Lily checked in daily. "Are you okay?" she'd ask, voice gentle, unsure she was talking to a man healing or hiding. "I'm adjusting," he always replied. "One day at a time." She didn't buy it. You two were together 6 years. People don't just turn that off. Kellen's answer was calm. "I'm not turning anything off. I'm just not chasing ghosts." His best friend Sean dropped by unannounced, 6-pack in hand, eyes scanning for cracks. "She left, and you're vacuuming?" Kellen shrugged. Would a meltdown help? Sean waited for the real emotion to surface, but it never did. Kellen didn't owe anyone a breakdown. What no one knew was that Kellen had felt her drifting long before she left, the warmth in her voice gone cold, her texts shorter. Eye contact evaporated like dew in the morning sun. So when she finally walked out, he didn't break. He simply adjusted, like fixing a leak before the storm. One evening, he found her old sweater, pale blue, frayed sleeves, stuffed in the back of a drawer. He held it for a moment, waited for something to hit. A memory, a wave, anything. Nothing came, just quiet. The next day, he packed the rest of her things into boxes, labeled them neatly. Clothes, toiletries, books she never read. Stacked them in the garage. Still no tears, no phone calls, no pleas for closure. Until Tyler came by. It was a rainy Thursday, the kind of night people cancel plans and stay in. But Tyler showed up, hair damp, expression tense. "Dude," he said the second Kellen opened the door. "I saw Ivy." Kellen raised a brow. Let him speak. She was at Dockside Bar 3 nights ago with some guy. They weren't just friends. They were close, laughing, handsy, like they'd been a thing for a while. Kellen didn't flinch. He grabbed a glass, filled it with water, took a slow sip. Tyler waited, searching his face for a flicker of emotion. "She asked for space," Kellen said. "That's what she's doing with it." "That doesn't bother you?" Tyler asked. Kellen looked him dead in the eye. "It used to, but I ran out of room to care." "You sure you're not just numb?" He set down the glass. "I'm sure I'm done." What Kellen hadn't told a soul, not Lily, not Sean, not even Tyler, was that he'd known about the affair before the suitcases ever came out. He'd seen the signs, heard the lies, tracked her locations. One day, he even stood outside a cafe, just far enough to watch her hand rest on another man's thigh. But he never confronted her, because Kellen wasn't the type to explode. He was the kind who waited, who moved in silence, who turned betrayal into a slow-burning fire, controlled and precise. 3 weeks after she left, the doorbell rang mid-shower. Kellen answered with a towel around his neck. Ivy stood there, same woman, different eyes. Her hair was tied carelessly. Her voice cracked on words she seemed unsure of. "Can we talk?" she asked. He didn't move, didn't smile, just stared. "I've been thinking, these past few weeks, being alone, It made me realize how much I miss us. You. Everything. I thought I needed space, but I think I just needed to understand how much I love you. He didn't blink. Loved, he said flatly. I love you, she corrected, her eyes brimming. Silence stretched like a blade. Then he turned and walked toward the kitchen. She followed cautiously, like a stranger in a house that once belonged to her. Everything had changed, cleaner, colder, as if the air itself had been reset. He opened a drawer, pulled out a silver key, and handed it to her. What's this? Garage, he said. Your boxes are in there. Her breath hitched. Kellen, what? I thought we were. There is no we. Not anymore. You really throw away 6 years? Just like that. I didn't throw anything. You did. When you traded truth for whatever that was at Dockside. Her cheeks flushed. You had me followed? No. You just forgot the world is small. And lies don't stay hidden in a city where I know everyone who matters. It wasn't serious. He was a mistake. Then you should have made fewer of them. She opened her mouth, but he raised a hand. You don't get to rewrite what happened. Her voice trembled. We built a life here. This house. And now, he said, you get to remember what it felt like to lose it. She stood frozen, and for the first time, the silence didn't belong to him. It belonged to her. The door closed again. This time for good. Plans? This house? He said, cutting in. It's mine. Always was. Your name's not on the deed. You move in. You moved out. And now you can move on. She stared at him like she was trying to find a man who used to tuck her in at night, rub her shoulders after long days, kiss her forehead when no one was watching. But that version of him had died quietly. You didn't even ask why I left, she said, voice trembling. Don't you want to know what was wrong? I already knew, he replied. You needed attention. You needed a thrill. And you thought I was just a placeholder until you found it. Tears slid down her cheek. You were the only thing that ever made me feel safe, she whispered. Kellen didn't soften. Then why'd you go looking for danger? She shook her head, stepping back like he'd physically struck her. You've changed. He walked to the door, opened it. No, he said. I just stopped pretending I didn't see who you really were. She hesitated, one last time, hoping for a plea, for any crack in his armor. But there was none. Instead, he gave her 10 minutes to pack her car and leave. Outside, she carried box after box alone, her tears soaking the sleeves of hoodies she used to steal from him on cold nights. There was no dramatic goodbye. No sad music swelling in the background, just cardboard shifting, the crunch of rubber soles on gravel, and the sound of a door that would never open for her again. Inside, Kellen stood without expression, because this wasn't heartbreak. This was justice, and it had only just begun. While Ivy thought this was the end of her punishment, Kellen's revenge had only just taken its first breath. By the time she pulled away from the house for the last time, her face was streaked with tears, her trunk packed full of regrets. She didn't know the worst was still to come. Kellen didn't celebrate. He didn't drink. He didn't post cryptic quotes online. Instead, he honed his silence into precision and began dismantling the life she thought she could crawl back to. He started with the simple things: shared accounts closed, passwords changed, streaming services canceled, mail forwarding already arranged. That wasn't revenge. That was housekeeping. The real plan had been in place for longer than she could imagine. Kellen had kept a private file, offline, never in the cloud, just in case. He never wanted to use it, but it was there. Photos, screenshots, bank statements. A receipt from a boutique in Denver she swore she never visited. A boarding pass from a weekend trip she never logged on their shared calendar. And the email left open on her laptop one night, minimized, not hidden well enough. Subject line, Miss Friday already, from someone named Travis Decker. He never opened it. He didn't need to. He'd already seen enough. Kellen was patient, but never passive. He didn't scream when betrayed. He built. A week after Ivy left, he met with a local attorney, Camila Rhodes, not a divorce lawyer, a corporate branding specialist. Because while Ivy was off finding herself, Kellen had been reinventing everything. The AI logistics project he had shelved for years, waiting for the right time, now had his full attention. With no emotional anchors, he doubled his hours, pitched investors, and within 2 months, he signed a deal that elevated him into the same financial bracket Ivy once claimed he was too cautious to ever reach. Meanwhile, Ivy was unraveling. It started slow. A simple text. "Hey, just wondering how you've been." No reply. Then came the calls. Once, twice, then voicemail after voicemail. "Kellen, I know I messed up. People make mistakes. Please don't throw everything away." He blocked her. She showed up at his office. Security turned her away. His name was on the building now, not hers, not theirs. So she ran to the man she once risked it all for, Travis, the one who made her laugh in dimly lit bars while Kellen waited at home. She told him she was pregnant. Travis promised support for the child, not for her. He moved back to Arizona a week later. Back to his ex-left Ivy with a promise of child support and nothing more. She thought maybe, just maybe, Kellen would save her. So when she saw his best friend Sean in the grocery store, she tried again. "Does he ever talk about me?" she asked. Sean hesitated. "You don't want the answer to that." "I need him to know I'm sorry," she said. "He already knows," Sean replied. "He just doesn't care anymore." And that hurt more than hate. That was erasure. Back at his home, his, not theirs, everything had changed. The lighting was warmer. The furniture had been rearranged. The walls repainted. The scent of cinnamon lingered where her rose vanilla perfume once hung. One Saturday, Lily, his sister, sat beside him on the back porch. "She came to my apartment," Lily said softly. Kellen looked up. "Ivy." Lily nodded. "She wants me to talk to you. Says she's desperate. She's pregnant." He didn't blink. "Not mine." "She admitted that," Lily said quickly, "but she's scared. Alone. Said it was the biggest mistake of her life." Kellen tilted his face toward the clouds. Then, with the same calm he'd wielded like a blade since the day Ivy left, he said, "Some mistakes don't come with second chances." Lily placed a hand over his. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "You didn't just survive this. You grew." He gave her a small smile. "I don't want revenge." "You sure?" she asked. He looked her in the eye. "No, I wanted clarity." Revenge just happened to be the side effect of that night. Ivy sat alone in her apartment. Smaller, colder, lonelier than anywhere she'd ever lived, cradling her stomach and wondering how she'd gone from everything to nothing. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had never loved Kellen the way he deserved. And now, she'd never get the chance again, because the man she betrayed didn't ruin her publicly. He didn't need to. He let her live with the full weight of knowing she had ruined herself. The air in her apartment never stayed warm, no matter how high she turned the thermostat. The windows rattled when the wind blew, and the floorboards creaked under her restless pacing. She barely slept, wide-eyed, haunted by a name she couldn't even whisper without her chest tightening. Kellen. It had been 3 months since she last saw him, since that night in the garage, when his final words shattered every illusion she clung to. She looked different now, thinner, slower, shadows under her eyes that no amount of makeup could mask. The pregnancy wasn't hard on her body, but it gutted her emotionally, not because of the baby, but because of the silence. No one checked on her, not Travis, who ghosted her after a brief, indifferent conversation about co-parenting, not her old friends, who disappeared with the glow of her relationship, not even Kellen's sister, Lily. Lily had tried. But after Ivy showed up at her office a second time, Lily drew a line, gently but firmly. "I can't be the bridge anymore," she had said. "You don't understand. He was my home." Ivy had pleaded. "No," Lily replied softly. "He was your blessing. And you burned it." The word stuck. Every ultrasound. Every appointment. She went alone. Sat in waiting rooms scrolling through old photos. Her and Kellen in better days. Her favorite was one from Colorado. Snow falling, his arm around her, smile wide and soft. Back then, she looked like someone who had everything. Because she did. Now, all she had was regret. Meanwhile, Kellen was on a flight to New York. His company, Axis Forge, had just been acquired in a 7-figure deal. He was invited to speak at a major tech conference. In less than a year, he had transformed from quietly dependable to one of the most respected new names in predictive automation. But success hadn't changed him. It clarified him. He bought a new home, smaller but full of light. Everything in it was something he loved. Nothing reminded him of Ivy. A record player, a stack of crime novels, a coffee maker that brewed his exact taste. He even started dating again. Slowly, thoughtfully. He wasn't chasing anyone. He wasn't trying to fill a void. He was whole. One Sunday morning, Kellen jogged to the park near his home. He paused when he spotted a familiar figure on a bench, curled in a gray sweater that swallowed her frame. Ivy. She looked pale, lost, distant. She hadn't seen him yet. Kellen stood there for a moment, breathing in the cold air. A wave of memories hit him, but no pain, just clarity. Then, quietly, he turned and jogged the other way. He didn't owe her anything. Not words, not comfort, not closure. He had already given her everything. She had given it to someone else. Ivy saw him too late. Just the back of him, slipping into the trees. She stood halfway, heart racing, but her body didn't move fast enough. She sank back down, knowing it wouldn't matter what she said. He wasn't turning around. That night, Ivy sat on the floor of her apartment, hand on her stomach, the other gripping a letter she'd rewritten a dozen times. Every version started the same, "I'm sorry." Every version ended the same, "Please come back." Every time she folded it, sealed it, addressed it, she tore it up before she could send it, because she knew what he'd say. Nothing. That was the final revenge. Kellen didn't have to destroy her. He simply removed himself from the life of someone who had underestimated the depth of his love and the power of his absence. The next morning, rain fell relentlessly. A cold drizzle blurred the skyline and soaked the sidewalks. Ivy stood outside the Axis Forge tower, an envelope in her hand, her coat fluttering in the wind. Her hair was wet, her shoes, her heart. She didn't have an appointment. She didn't care. She waited. When Kellen finally exited around noon, tailored charcoal coat, briefcase in one hand, Bluetooth in the other, he looked like someone who belonged to a life Ivy could no longer access. She stepped into his path. He stopped. Their eyes locked. 5 seconds. The world held its breath. "I just wanted to give you," she whispered, extending the envelope. Handwritten. No return address. Kellen looked at it, then at her. "What's in it?" he asked. "My truth." His eyes drifted to her belly, round now. The child would be here soon. He shook his head, slowly. "It's too late for that. Kellen, please. I'm not asking you to come back. I need you to read it. I need you to know I wasn't trying to hurt you. You did hurt me," he said flat. "You just didn't think you'd have to watch me get better without you." She looked down, then back up. "There's a name in there," she said softly. "For the baby, I want to give him your last name." Kellen didn't respond, didn't move. He wasn't angry. He was just tired. "You want my name on a child that isn't mine?" "No, not legally," she said quickly. "Just symbolically. So he knows what kind of man I should have loved. So he carries your strength, even if—" "I don't need a legacy in your child's life," he interrupted gently. "I needed loyalty in mine." Then he stepped back and turned away. The envelope slipped from her hand, fluttered to the wet pavement. He never looked back. Ivy sank to her knees, not from physical pain, but from the finality of his silence. She stayed there long after he vanished into the rain, until a security guard approached, asking if she needed someone to call. She didn't. There was no one left to call. That night, Ivy sat by her window, singing lullabies through her tears, whispering to the child inside her. She would raise her son. She would try to teach him strength, kindness, consequences. But there would be a name she could never speak again without breaking. Kellen. Months later, in a sunlit cafe in Boston, Kellen sipped coffee with a woman named Brooke, a kind-eyed colleague he met at the conference. They spoke about books, dogs, quiet mornings. No pressure, no pretense, just beginnings. When she stepped away to take a call, Kellen leaned back, watched the city outside the window, and smiled. He had survived the fire, and now he was blooming.